It's the second best weekend of the NFL playoffs. It's made better now because we have a whole nother game, but really it's the divisional round that is so good because you get the one seeds that come into play and it just makes things a little more interesting. But this is when we'll have the most games in the NFL playoffs. It's Onorato Company. It's Chris Onorato. It's Ashley Miller. And there should be some decent games. We're waiting for the best ones, but we'll pick all of the games ahead this weekend in our Pick Six Vodka NFL Pick-em, Ash.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned at the lack of star power, for lack of a better word, in terms of like the unevenness of some of these games when you've got backup quarterbacks starting. So I'm not sure some of these games could get a little sideways. But yeah, listen, for me, this is kind of like, it's not equivalent to the first round of the NCAA tournament, but it's a big weekend and it's a fun weekend.
Let's get it going.
This is Onorato Company, brought to you by Albany House.
The great team at Albany House in Amsterdam and Clifton Park, the ski shop, is killing it. As always, Andy Heck and Katie Osborne, we thank them for their support each and every week, and all of our local business partners here on the show on Onorato Company. Great show ahead. Mandy Patinkin, the Emmy and Tony Award-winning actor who's coming to Proctors Theater, will join us. He tells some great stories about his career, throwing out a first pitch at a White Sox game, and he even turns the tables and tries to interview me and Ashley before we quickly reflect and get back to him because he is the guest of honor. We've got the FireWolves segment coming up. Follow the pack. Justin Geddie, the goalie from Albany, will join us later on in the show as well. And I already said that Pick Six Vodka NFL Pick'em, where we will go through all of the playoff games this coming weekend, wild card weekend in the NFL. J-Man is watching. Good morning, buddy. How are you, man? Good to see you. Sam, Carol, Ryan, love it. Thanks for jumping on the show, guys. As we do this live on a Thursday morning each and every single week on News Channel 13's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're watching us on TV and you want to watch us live, that's how you can do it. If you like watching us on the big screen at home, we appreciate that as well. Before we get to the games themselves, Ash, this is the news that just keeps getting better and better. It's been almost 2 weeks at this point since Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field in Cincinnati of a Monday Night Football game. Now he is back home, released from the hospital, transferred from Cincinnati to Buffalo, and then released from the hospital. And doctors said he is strong enough to recover on his own at home. Incredible.
Yeah, really incredible stuff. And we talked a little bit about it. No pre-existing condition. You know, doctors had determined that it's kind of, for lack of a better term, it was a freak accident. It was a kind of a combination of a lot of bad factors, exact timing, and the hit itself was what caused it. So hopefully he lives a healthy life. As for his football future, I think that's probably not on his mind right now or his family's mind right now, getting him back to health. And then we'll talk about his football future later on.
We know it's definitely on his mind. The first thing he wrote when he woke up was, did we win? I'm sure
but he had no idea what happened at that point. So I think you got to, once you see the video back and you understand the gravity of the situation, I think maybe you think a little bit harder about it.
Yes, maybe. But at 24, I don't know that you really grasp necessarily what happened. And then you're watching your teammates play a playoff game. I'm sure he is dying to get back on the field in some capacity. And I know nothing about the medical background here and the potential that this could repeat itself. But if you asked me today, percentage that Damar Hamlin plays NFL football again, I'd say 100. 100. I think he'll be so determined to play again.
Yeah.
I don't know how the length of that career, but I would bet a lot of money that he is at least on the field one more time.
Yeah. I mean, listen, one more time, you could line him up to start a snap, and that's one more time. Whether or not he plays an NFL career from here on out, I'd say it's 80. I think his parents are going to have a lot more to do with probably whether or not he plays again than you think.
Yeah. Sam says maybe make an appearance at the game this weekend. If you thought last weekend was wild, with the kickoff returns and the pregame ceremonies and all the chanting and the threes and if Hamlin is in the house,
yeah,
and they show him on the jumbotron,
right out in the field.
Darlene brings this up as well. If you've heard the story, it's Peyton Hillis, former Browns running back. He was a fantasy football stud for like 2 or 3 straight years. Yes, saved his children from drowning and ended up in the ICU himself. It is a storyline we're certainly aware of. Good news for Damar Hamlin, back home now in Buffalo to recover on his own. Again, we will pick all of these games coming up later in the show, but we'll dive into some of the things here, storyline related, Ash, just because we're maybe not so enthralled with a couple of the matchups. Which quarterback head coach combo do you trust most and least in these playoffs? It's AFC, it's NFC, it's 1 seeds, it's 7 seeds. How about it?
This one was easy for me. The least is McCarthy and Dak, because the Cowboys have struggled so mightily. Listen, what do you make that face for? They looked like they couldn't play football last week in a game that meant something to them. It's McCarthy and Dak for me. I'm not saying I don't trust Mike McCarthy in the playoffs in general. I trust this team less. I trust the combination of them less. Okay, so if I don't trust Dak, maybe that's it. It's heavy on the Dak, whatever for me. That was an easy one for me.
Okay, you didn't take the low-hanging fruit of Mike McDaniel and Skylar Thompson, because that for me is just not. That's not your starting quarterback and your starting and your, you know what I mean, head coach. Obviously, all the head coaches are your head coach, but that's not their starting quarterback. I'm not going to then say, of course, if it was Tua, then I would say I would still pick them over the Cowboys. You trust Pete Carroll and Geno Smith more than Dak and McCarthy?
No, but I trust Pete Carroll, and I trust the way Geno's played this year. He's obviously, but there are I'm not going to say I trust Purdy because I have no idea. There are enough quarterbacks on this list that I have we're playing Huntley in Baltimore, right? There are enough that I would say don't trust. But there are a few combos. My number one, and I went through, I have 3, which is the obvious 3, I think. My number one is Mahomes and Reed, because they've done it before. They show up in the big moments. Andy Reid is one of the greatest play callers of all time. For me, that was an easy one. Second for me is McDermott and Allen. Third for me is Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. The combination of the 2 of those, you have the quarterback and the head coach for all of those are my top 3. Everyone else, that's only a half of the equation for me that I'm like, yes, but it doesn't play out for me.
I'm so glad that you rank them the way you did. Not necessarily in the order, but those are your top 3, all in the AFC. And I mean, that just speaks volumes to me that we value these top 3 AFC teams more than we do right? Like Jalen Hurts, haven't seen him in the postseason before.
Nick Sirianni, you know what I mean? There's just too many questions on some of those combos.
Yeah, no doubt. You said Brock Purdy, 3rd string quarterback. Kyle Shanahan has gotten to a Super Bowl as a head coach, lost, blew a 28-3 lead to the Patriots as the offensive play caller for the Falcons. How much do you trust him with a 3rd string quarterback? The defense you trust immensely, but this is just quarterback head coach. I don't know that I trust them in a big spot. And
Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins. And listen, I trust Tom Brady with my life, but Todd Bowles, and that team just isn't quite the same. And I picked them to beat the Cowboys because I trust the Cowboys less than both of them.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Reed and Mahomes. The quarterback head coach combo, I think it's going to be Carroll and Smith if you're making me pick a head coach and a starting quarterback.
Least.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not considering.
After you just said Shanahan blows every lead ever and Purdy's never
started. But if you're making me pick a starting quarterback and a head coach, and I'm not even considering the opposition, they have no chance of winning at San Francisco on Saturday. Not the way that defense is playing in San Francisco right now. Just no chance. Yeah. All right, this is a fun one. 3 seed or lower. Best chance to reach the Super Bowl from both the AFC and NFC.
Oh, jeez.
Now, for me, give me the Bengals. That's the layup. They're the 3 seed in the AFC. You're going to like them better than 4 through 7 in that conference. Yes or no?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, if I'm in there, yes. The only other one, Yeah, not in the AFC for sure. The NFC.
You're not taking Minnesota.
No, but maybe the Bucs. Like, I'm not taking the Bucs, but
you're clearly not taking Dallas. You're not taking Seattle.
I'm not taking the Giants either. So it would be the Bucs for me on that side. But I'm not comfortable or confident in that.
Yeah. It's got to be Tampa because it's Brady. But if you said, hey, Chris, you can't pick the same as Ash, I'll take the Giants. I'll take the Giants because I like Brian Dable. I've got Saquon Barkley. Thibodeau is playing at a high level now here the last few weeks of the season. Give me the Giants. And I also like the matchup at Minnesota. So I have to consider that too, right? Like, okay, if a 3-seed or lower is going to get to the Super Bowl, what does their path look like? The Giants would beat Minnesota, and then they would get the 1 seed because they would be the lowest remaining seed. So then you're talking about playing a division opponent who they're very familiar with Philadelphia. Okay, I don't love that, but I'm giving them an outside shot.
I don't like that either.
And then you're talking about another road game in an NFC championship game. But if you get me to that point, roll the dice and who the heck knows. So their path to the Super Bowl is probably easier than another team that's 3-seed or lower.
But would you be surprised if the Giants lose this weekend?
No, of course not. Of course not.
That's the thing. Yeah. I like the matchup as well because I like it better than going to San Francisco. But I still am not super confident. Listen, they're a lower seed. It's you're on the road.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Jones.
Melissa, Nick, we see you. Sam says Dallas will lose on Monday. Did you throw this up as I was ranting as well? Sam likes the Chargers and Giants as the lower seeds to win this weekend. All right, let's take a quick time out here on Onorato Company. When we come back, the Performance Industrial Dirty, Difficult, Done. Jets have fired their offensive coordinator. Lamar Jackson still does not look any closer to playing for the Baltimore Ravens. Will he ever play for them again? Back in a minute.
The temperatures are dropping, which means the holidays are right around the corner. 'Tis the season at Albany Ski Shop, where you'll receive up to 50% off top ski and snowboard brands like K2, Vocal, Nordica, and LiveTech. And check out our selection of footwear from Muck and UGG, as well as casual and hiking apparel from Patagonia and the North Face. We also have the latest in winter fashion from Fly Low, Marmot, Obermeyer, and Helly Hansen. And an Alpen House gift card is the perfect gift for the adventure on your list. Alpen House in Amsterdam and Clifton Park.
You've heard of unsung heroes. The men and women of Nyskoba are the unseen heroes. For the past year, you've learned about our many charitable endeavors. Now it is my privilege to share with you the work performed by our members, the 20,000 state correction and law enforcement officers shielded from view. They work in difficult and dangerous conditions and are an extension of the police who protect our neighborhoods. Nyskoba honors New York's police and firefighters and salutes its own members who help deliver a peaceful night's sleep.
And now back to Onorato Company, brought to you by Alpen House.
Mandy Patinkin, the Emmy and Tony Award-winning actor who is coming to Proctors Theater with his show called Being Alive. That conversation 5 minutes away. But we get going now on this segment with Performance Industrial's Dirty, Difficult, Done.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Presented by Performance Industrial.
Bill Miller and his great crew at Performance Industrial, where they say there is no job that's too dirty or too difficult. Ash, you're up first.
To get done. Yes, I'm up first. Listen, I'm going to say that the Jets did Mike LaFleur a little bit dirty because he's done in New York. And I understand that the Jets have been a basement dweller in offense in his 2 seasons in New York. But there hasn't been an offensive coordinator that's gone more than 2 seasons with the Jets since Brian Schottenheimer. And he left the organization in 2011. I just feel like they're not giving these guys a fair shake, especially when your number 1 quarterback that you drafted number 2 overall 2 years ago is Zach Wilson. And this is a guy that we've basically said is not going to be a franchise quarterback. You're giving him a guy that you don't even believe in and then saying, here's the keys to the offense, make it work. I feel like that's not exactly fair. bring in whoever you're going to bring in, whether it's Jimmy G, whether it's Derek Carr, if that's the route you're going to go, a veteran quarterback, because at this point, why draft another quarterback? And give him a fair shot with a top 5 defense and an actual quarterback on offense and see what he can do. But you know what? He's probably better off without them. Go somewhere else. He's the cream of the crop. He's going to get any job he wants that's open. So I think it was a little bit unfair to kind of make him the scapegoat when the organization drafted the quarterback that clearly isn't working.
Get him to Green Bay. Let him be some kind of
offense. Mike White do okay. Like, that offense was better with Chris Streveler and Mike White in it than it was with Zach Wilson. You can't pin that on the offensive coordinator.
This is what happens, though, when you have the number 2 overall pick who is not succeeding. The blame falls on a coach first. Like, well, LaFleur, maybe you're the reason Zach Wilson isn't coming along the way we want him to. And I can throw up the numbers as well. I mean, no matter who the quarterback was, they're not scoring points. Now, again, I'm with you. You're not giving Mike LaFleur a lot to work with here, even before this year, to say who are their offensive weapons. You drafted Elijah Moore, who has requested a trade, and you were ready to bench the guy. Denzel Mims is a guy you weren't going to play a lot either. So you've almost swung and missed on 2 receivers in the top 3 rounds in the last couple of years. You finally go get Garrett Wilson. Okay,
yeah, and he's the stud.
And Breece Hall will be really good too. But so I'm with you. I just don't think enough time has played out for Mike LaFleur. However, I think there was probably a little bit of heat. The offense isn't doing what it needs to. This is the weak link. Go get somebody else. My performance industrial dirty difficult done. Contract negotiations with Lamar Jackson are going to be difficult.
It's already been difficult.
He doesn't have an agent, so he's representing himself. And I believe that he is sending a clear message to this organization that I am not getting back on the field for you until I have serious guaranteed money coming my way. So there will be a franchise tag placed on Lamar Jackson, and then it gets interesting. Does he hold out? There's a finite window between tagging a guy and when he needs to be signed to a long-term contract extension. I don't think the negotiations will go well in that period of time. I think Lamar will say, you want to tag me, that's fine, but I'm not going to play for you. And then you get the standoff and training. This is going to be a story, everybody, I think that lives well into the month of July and probably August. So if you're tired of hearing it in January, we've got another 6 or 7 months of this, I think. There's no trade coming. Lamar Jackson will get franchise tagged in Baltimore. We'll have to try to figure out a contract for him. Not going to be easy. He's already made it so, as you said.
Yeah.
I don't know how healthy he is or isn't, but I believe he's healthy enough to force himself onto the field to play a playoff game if he were making $40 to $50 million a year. And he's not. So here you go.
I think it's tough when you haven't, like, for next week, but for this week, you just haven't practiced. So to be in physical shape, whatever physical shape you need to be in, might be difficult. But listen, he knows the playbook forward and backward. He's not going to lose any of that. So my guess is maybe he comes back next week if they win, but I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah, no chance. No chance at all. All right, go ahead.
Sam disagrees. He's there to make the quarterback get better.
Yeah.
My argument is that quarterback is not what people thought he was. You can't make a quarterback who just doesn't have the skills an NFL quarterback. That's not his job. His job is to make the offense work. But if you haven't been given what you feel is a fair shake with a quarterback, then nobody's going to make Zach Wilson work. I don't see it happening.
And I'm glad you said it exactly. I'm throwing this up only to say, Ash, what you just said. Ryan wants to know best candidate. I don't think there is a candidate that's going to turn Zach Wilson around. I don't see it.
No.
The Jets organization knows it, whether or not they want to admit it. All right, Mandy Patinkin is our prime guest on the show. He's won an Emmy. He's won a Tony. He's coming to Proctors Theater Thursday, February 2nd with his show, Being Alive. I hope you all enjoy this conversation as much as Ash and I enjoyed doing it. Back right after this with Mandy Patinkin.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through product and purpose. Claim your crown.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
And now back to Onorato Company, brought to you by Alpen House.
Okay, it's Onorato Company from home. Chris Onorato and Ashley Miller. And Ash, this podcast, this show has given us so many great opportunities to talk with athletes and coaches, Hall of Fame variety people, but also musicians, comedians, actors. And I will be honest, although we've spoken with some people who I hold in very high regard, journalists as well, I'm rarely nervous for one of these.
Are you nervous?
I am nervous for this one. I don't know. There's something weird about our guest this week that just puts a little bit of and then you see some of the videos he's done on social media and you think, there's no reason to be nervous with this guy.
No, not at all.
Mandy Patinkin, who has won an Emmy and a Tony. And he has the Grammy equivalent in Germany, I saw, which is very cool. So he's really just the Oscar away from the EGOT. Maybe that's why I'm nervous, because he's a near EGOT guy. Let's bring him into the conversation here. Mandy Patinkin with us on Onorato Company. Mandy, thank you so much for doing the show. How are you?
Oh, good. You've made me nervous now.
Well, definitely don't be nervous around us. Our resumes are about this much compared to yours.
Yeah. Mandy, you're coming to Proctors in Schenectady in February for, I think, look, I don't know, maybe it's the new generation of TV viewers who will remember you maybe most recently from Homeland, which is a show that Ashley and I both loved. But obviously, you won for Chicago Hope, the Emmy. So maybe the TV crowd doesn't think of you as a musical performer, but that's why you're coming to Proctors. I cannot wait to see you put on the show that obviously you have such a great passion for. Where did that initially start, your love for Broadway?
Well, I started singing when I was 7 years old in the choir at the synagogue on the south side of Chicago. And then I got involved in the theater at a Young Men's Jewish Council Youth Center on the south side of Chicago. And that's where my love was born, for the theater. I kept doing it. And then I was doing Evita at the time. And the conductor, Paul Gemignani, introduced me to a piano player named Paul Ford. We put together a bunch of songs over a year that we liked, and we recorded it. The album all of a sudden did well. And then it was like, well, now what do we do with this? We went on the road and started doing concerts 30 some years ago. And we've been doing them ever since. And it became my first love.
I love that.
Mandy, it's Mandy Patinkin in concert, Being Alive, and you're with Adam Ben David on piano. What can people expect if people come out to Schenectady and Proctors? What will they expect from this show?
Well, I put this thing together because I was the show I did before was called Diaries, and it was a little dark. It was darker times, and I really said as we were coming out of the pandemic, I said, look, if I'm going to start doing this again, I needed to be happy. I needed to be happy for myself. So we went through all 13 hours of material that I had and culled it all. And I said, let's put together a happy show for me. I wanted it for me to be happy. If you come and you're not happy, that's your problem. Right. I'm going to be happy. So I put it together to have a very fun time. And I've already been doing it here and there. And so now is sort of the big kickoff, where I did a few while I was doing something else in the area on the West Coast. But now I'm getting going, and I'm going to be doing this version, which I call Being Alive, just for that reason, for quite a while.
You're going to love the theater at Proctors. It is such
I've been there many times.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I played there many times. If you and what you don't know is the backstage is full of history, because the doors, it used to be a circuit, a vaudeville circuit. Yep. So the doors have all the names of Troy, Schenectady, all the names are the dressing room doors. You really feel like you're in a museum. It's just, and the theater's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's such a cool space. For tickets, proctors.org is the easiest place to get it. A 7:30 concert with Mandy Patinkin. It is a collection of Mandy's favorite Broadway
Well,
numbers.
it's Broadway show tunes, stuff by other people like
awesome.
Randy Newman and Paul Simon, and one that I wrote when I was 25 when I met my wife, and all kinds of different things. But with the exception of me, mostly written by geniuses. I'm no genius. I'm just a mailman who delivers the songs. But most of these guys were geniuses who wrote these songs. Steve Sondheim, others, Irving Berlin, Oscar Hammerstein, like I said, Paul Simon, Randy Newman, and they tell stories. They're stories. That's what I do. I'm just a storyteller who happens to sing my words. And these guys, I get to be their mailman, and it's quite a privilege for me.
We love Broadway. I grew up with a father who ran a summer acting camp that I was initially forced to be part of, and then I came to enjoy it. I have an uncle who's been in the entertainment business in LA for his entire life.
What was the summer camp? What was that?
It was a very prestigious camp, Mandy, called Studio Stars in Glen Rock, New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew I'd seen you somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I haven't aged at all.
Not at all.
Speaking of this, I'm curious because Mandy, you're a great follow on social media. I know you can't take all the credit for it.
I don't take any credit for it. I take no, this is a disclaimer. I take none. It's all my son, Gideon. He started this thing. He's the one who runs it. He asks my wife and I stand there. He asks us the questions. We answer him. And there you have it.
It's incredible. But we've seen you recently full beard and no beard. How long does it take you to go full beard?
5 weeks.
Oh,
5 weeks. Okay. It'll be okay in 4, but it's really camera ready. Camera ready in 4, but really camera ready in 5.
Okay.
Mandy, did you get to, when Chris told me your son's name was Gideon, did you get to choose your character name in Criminal Minds? Because that was the first thing I thought of.
When we did the pilot of Criminal Minds, the character had a different name. I forget what the name was. And there was a legal problem, whatever the name was. And so they changed the name, and nobody even knew that my son's name was Gideon.
That's unbelievable.
So that was an old, that just happened.
Go ahead, Ashley.
TV and film, I would say.
You guys, let me ask you a question. To hell with me.
Yeah,
you guys, I hear, are married.
We are married.
What's that like working together? You want to kill each other?
No, we love it. So for a long time, we were in the same department. Now we have gone totally opposite, split shift. We're like ships passing in the night. So this is the one time we get to kind of reunite and have a little bit of fun. So we do.
You mean you do other jobs other than this separately?
We do, yeah. We work at a TV station.
What are those?
So we both work at a TV station. I'm in sports. Chris does news now. We used to be in sports together.
Yep.
But now he's on the morning shift and I do the night shows. So we're like.
My God. So, wow.
Ashley comes home sometimes at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, wakes me up. I go to work.
Wow. That's a way to keep the marriage fresh.
Not bad, right?
That's what everybody tells us.
And it's a new marriage.
You don't get tired of each other that way. That's a good plan.
Mandy, when it comes to like TV, film, Broadway, you are, for lack of a better phrasing, the actor in someone else's show. Does music just sort of allow you a little more freedom and allows you to do what you want? Like you said, you want to be happy. So you know what? I'm going to put something together where I can be happy versus you're kind of working for someone else in those other various media.
You've got it exactly right. I'm a hired hand in those other mediums. And here it's a mom and pop grocery shop on the corner. We just steal from all the geniuses who wrote these songs, put together our show, deliver the mail. And so it's my favorite thing to do of any of the privileged mediums I get to work in, because it's immediate. I'm with the audience. I'm with my piano player, Adam Ben David, and a piano and a bare stage. But it's nothing without the audience because we're only there to open the mail and read it to you. And so I just love it. And I've been doing it now since 1989, the solo ones. And it's my favorite thing, period.
Easiest way to get tickets, proctors.org. We'll throw some other information at you here. Being alive is the name of the concert.
I'm
And
off on
again, a
Thursdays.
collection of, and I am out of work early on Thursday. So we
We'll
will
be
definitely
there.
go to see this. You are a
If you
Tony
like coming
Award
down,
winner.
come back and say hi afterwards.
We will,
We
for
would
sure.
absolutely love that. We're going to let you go here in a second. But speaking of your social media presence, y'all live in some beautiful country. I mean, you've got nature trails that are often captured in these Instagram and Twitter videos. And you have a hilarious interaction many times with your son. There was one that jumped out to me anyway with your wife. You've already mentioned her here, Catherine. I know we said they were like 96% sports on this show. Gideon is asking your wife questions about baseball, and they're outside at a soccer game in New York City. And the acumen is not strong so much on baseball, but you're from Chicago. You now live in New York. You went to Kansas, which is a major sports university as well. Do you have any of that in your blood?
Zero. I went to Comiskey Park every Saturday after synagogue with my father to watch the White Sox.
Yeah.
And so from the time I was a little boy, he'd get me a beer to shut me up and put me to sleep. And I'd watch the White Sox and all those guys, Louis Aparicio and Early Wynn, and it was great. And then Bo Jackson. And I'll never forget, I had a great moment when I was doing a concert in Chicago, talking to someone just like the two of you. And the guy says, he's talking to me, and I'm telling him a story about my dad and taking me to the White Sox game every Saturday. I was there religiously. We went in the green Biscayne, sat there. He'd show me how to keep score and everything, and I watched the game through his eyes. He loved it more than anything. He loved baseball. And so I'm a diehard White Sox fan no matter what. I don't know who's playing today, but that's the only team I care about.
Whatever.
And the next thing, I get back to the hotel after, trying to hawk the concert, and I get a call from the publicity guy from the White Sox. Would I like to throw in the last ball for the last game of the season? I said, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure. And he said, no. He said, great. So I go, and then I called him back. I said, listen, I'll only do it if my Uncle Harold Drake can come with me, because he's a guy who does the New York Times crossword puzzle in ink in 5 minutes, Anyway, and he's a major White Sox fan. Uncle Harold's like in his late 80s. And he comes with me, and I bring the kids. All the cousins want to come. So we all go out to the mound, and I'm like practicing because I want to make sure that I get it. But it was really something. Uncle Harold had Parkinson's. This is an amazing story. He had Parkinson's really bad. So we're driving down the outer drive. He's like this, going on the drive, and we're all like praying, oh, please, let's not die while Uncle Harold's driving us to the White Sox game. And we get to the park, and we're there early. So they're taking us to meet all the players and everybody. And Thurman Munson, wasn't it Thurman Munson who was a catcher, a Hall of Fame catcher, and he played on the White Sox, right?
Yankees.
Yeah.
No, then I got the wrong name. It was
Carlton Fisk?
Carlton Fisk, I think. Yeah. And so we meet him, and when you shake these ball players' hands, it's like, it's like a vice. I've never felt anything like it. They're just steel. And Carlton Fisk goes in his locker, because we're meeting them all before the game. Bo Jackson's in the jacuzzi, and we're meeting them all before the game. And Fisk gives Uncle Harold his jersey right out of his locker.
God.
And so I have it, and all that. And so Uncle Harold left it to me after he passed on. But we go in the camp, and we go in the park, and it's the new Comiskey Park. So there's that rotunda on the it's sort of like this circle thing. And they open the doors right behind home plate. And there's that view of that beautiful view of the ballpark and the bleachers. And the place is pretty empty, but there's that magical view. And the minute he sees that, he stops shaking for 5 hours. He never shook once. And we go out to the mound. And I was like, I'd been practicing, because it's a long way if you're not a ball player to get it to the catcher. And they just humiliated me. The catcher comes up like I'm 4 years old. He comes up halfway between the home plate and the mound. I wanted to kill him, but anyway, that was my moment of fame in professional baseball.
I love that story. And it amplifies the power of sport that Ashley and I believe so much in. You see it happening now in Buffalo with what's going on with one of their players, Damar Hamlin, after Monday Night Football, and him being in the hospital, and the great news that has come since that cardiac arrest that he had. Ash
makes
always
you feel alive, though. The sport, it just makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
You know, and the adrenaline, the chemicals it puts out in your body, so much so that Uncle Harold never shook.
Amazing.
And we left that ballpark. We met everybody after the game. We watched the whole thing. They gave us these great places to sit. And then he got in the car. He turned the key on the ignition, and there he went. You know, his self-power. All the way
You know
home.
what? Uncle Harold probably never felt more alive, speaking of being alive. And those are the moments that you can get not only from sport, but from music, from theater, movies, entertainment, all of it. So I think that's kind of the all-encompassing message, and it's a really good one.
Let me ask you one more thing, Mandy, and we will let you go here. But I want to highlight this because you do so much of it. I saw a video that you did post online, or Gideon did, I should say. But you talked about the decency in humans that you believe is always present, whether or not we really see a lot of it in the larger media. Why do you feel that way? And I know that it is reflected in all of the philanthropic work you do around the world.
I feel I learn my lessons from children. I do a lot of work with the International Rescue Committee. I go to war zones right on the borders. We go into the refugee camps. We meet these people who have lived the most horrific things imaginable, lost family right in front of their eyes, and yet they never give up. Women who build their homes with their own hands. They walk 2 hours a day to get food, 2 hours a day to take their kid to school, 2 hours a day to pick them up. They weep together and then they dance together. They just are nothing but inspiration. And I was in where was I? It was in I met Farhad Nouri, an Afghan refugee, and I can't remember exactly where I met him, where that refugee camp was. But Farhad Nouri, a 10-year-old little boy artist, and I said to him, "We're like you're talking to me. I'm on a bench outside. We're filming it." And I said, "You know, Farhad, I have the privilege of talking to refugees from all over these conflict zones, and then if we're lucky, we share it, and people get to see these interviews. And what would you like to say to people about refugees and refugee crisis?" And he didn't miss a beat. He just said kindness. Refugees need kindness, not just for me, but for refugees everywhere, all over the world. And I'm the product of a refugee. You know, many Americans, most Americans are.
Sure.
People who fled conflict zones, and now they're climate conflicts and conflict zones, and it never ends. What's going on in Ukraine and Afghanistan and Syria, and on and on and on it will go. And that little boy summed it up. Human beings need kindness. That's our job as human beings, to take care of others. Grandpa Max used to say, "A redel zadredlach" in Yiddish, which means the wheel is always turning. So if you're on top, one day you will be on the bottom. And when someone knocks on your door, like our ancestors knocked on the door of America, some were not let in, but thank goodness enough we were let in. We're here. And they opened the door. And if you don't open the door when someone comes knocking, when that wheel turns and you're on the bottom, and someday you knock on the door, they won't open it for you if you hadn't opened it for them. And it's one of the greatest gifts of my life to have met these people and continue to meet them all over the world. They teach you how to live and be alive and embrace the preciousness of existence and fight for equality for human beings all over the world. How dare we have what we have, and some have no home, no roof, no food, no education, no medical care. They need a new beginning. And those of us in privileged positions have such a powerful thing called a vote, that we can elect individuals to change the lives of human beings at home and all over the world. And that's a pretty thrilling gift.
And you've got a great platform to spread that message. And I know you love doing it. Well, we've enjoyed talking with you, Mandy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say for my wife, her favorite part was being able to see your dog. So
that's not true. I enjoyed my time with Mandy.
Since it's mainly sports, I did play on the basketball team at Harvard St. George on the south side of Chicago. I was in one game. I was mainly the water boy. And then they put me in one game. We were like 20-some points ahead. And I got so excited that they threw me the ball. and I ran to the basket and I threw it in the basket, and it was the wrong basket. I went to the wrong side, but that was pretty, I didn't get it in, but he took me out of the game after that.
At least you were 20 points ahead. So even if you got it in,
and let me tell you, nobody got water as good as
Mandy, I know you probably don't miss him. You played him for a long time. I miss Saul Berenson. Thank you for doing our show.
Thank you for asking people to come to the theater, and I promise you a good evening. And if you hate it, just go to sleep. It'll be over.
Yeah.
in a little while.
Right.
You made it too bad.
Exactly. Thank you, Mandy.
Thanks. Be well. Have a wonderful life.
The Albany FireWolves professional indoor lacrosse team invites you to join us on Saturday, January 21st to witness our epic face-off with the New York Riptide at 7 p.m. at the MVP Arena in Albany. Get your tickets now at albanyfirewolves.com. Join the pack.
And now back to Onorato Company. Brought to you by Albany House.
All right, Ash. Well, what do you think? Mandy Patinkin on Onorato Company. Pretty cool.
Yeah, listen, we pre-recorded that interview, and there's sometimes when I'm like busy doing notes and all these things, I literally watched every second back of the 20 minutes, and I was a part of the conversation to begin with,
right.
And so often I'm smiling the whole time. He was absolutely incredible. I hope we get to go to the show because he was great.
Yeah, me too. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. We've got more business to take care of, though, here with the NFL playoffs. Let's go.
And now your weekly NFL Pick'em. Presented by Pick Six Vodka.
Holly and Serge and the great team at Saratoga Courage Distillery, part of this segment each and every single week on Onorato and Company. You know what? Before I even get into the games, we have to acknowledge the winner of this past season. We both had decent final weeks, week 18, when we were picking against the spread. From here on out, we will pick just straight winners with the playoffs. But there you are, Ash, at the top. Still below 500, but at the top, 52-55.
At the top of our sorry standings. I wasn't sure if we were still playing through the playoffs. I mean, I'm happy to extend it. We can do another winner at the end of the playoffs. Hey, you know what gave it to me? I didn't really want to pick against the Packers, but I did so that it was a fair shake at the end. And guess what? It worked out for me.
And you'll never be forgiven for it. So there.
Well,
okay.
got
I
me
believe
together.
In the power of predictions. Here are our predictions. Seahawks and Niners, the 4:30 game on Saturday. It's the first game of the weekend. San Francisco. I mean, we put the spread there just for your reference. We're picking straight winners here only, and yet they will still cover that number, don't you think?
It'll be close. It'll be close. I don't know that they cover. I'm not sure that I would have picked them if we were picking against the spread.
I like this from Jason.
I mean, I was real far behind.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big time. Was it a comeback or a collapse? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a victory either way for you. So we both like the Niners. We both like the Jaguars here Saturday night on News Channel 13. That combination.
Because, why I like the Jags? Because I have zero faith in Brandon Staley. He takes my head coach quarterback combo and puts it right in the trash because I really like Justin Herbert, but I don't trust Brandon Staley to call any sort of game for anybody.
Yeah. And look, Jacksonville's defense is very good. I would say just hand the ball to Eckler 30 times, but that's not necessarily going to work. We both like Jacksonville. Our meteorologist, Neil Ostano, says it's going to be cold Saturday night. He says probably in the 30s at kickoff of this one. I said, well, it's not going to benefit either team because you're coming from LA as well with the Chargers. So neither team is going to be happy about it. But if it comes down to having to run the ball well, maybe Eckler is the guy over ETN. Dolphins and the Bills. This number is now bigger. If you got it at a sports book near you at 10 or 10.5, good for you. Yeah. Then the Tua news comes out. It's going to be Skylar Thompson. We both like Buffalo. Do you like Buffalo to cover? Is this just a complete blowout? Yeah,
I like Buffalo to cover. It's Skylar Thompson, number one. It's Damar. You know what I mean? They played for Damar last week. It took them a little bit to get going. We didn't even talk about that game. That was absolutely unbelievable. The opening kickoff, I was like, I had chills. But again, I think you play for Damar. Maybe he's in the building. This is like, I know people who aren't Bills fans who went and got tickets to this game because I think they were hoping for kind of the same magic.
Quickly, did you see the interview with two of the doctors from the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, who said they had to check on him regularly during that game? He was setting off every single life monitor because he was just losing his mind yelling at the TV.
Yep, I did see that. Every alert and alarm he could set off, he set off because he was probably so jacked up and getting wild.
I love that. We both like the Giants here on the road to pull off what is a slight upset. If you believe what we've been told from the people in the desert, a home team generally gets 2 or 3 points on the spread line. So Vikings are a very small favorite here as the 3 seed against the 6. Why the Giants for you, Ash? I mean, I just am not going to trust Kirk Cousins here despite that record and winning the division this year. I think the Giants will be able to run the ball well. Jones makes enough plays with his legs. I like New York here.
Yeah, I do too. This was a little bit of a heart pick. If they were going to San Francisco, I think I would have picked against them. But I also just don't trust the Vikings. And I like that we've talked about, we just like the matchup against the Vikings a little bit better than the matchup with the Niners. So I went with the Giants.
Sunday nighter, not much needs to be said here. Again, on News Channel 13.
Making up any ground on this show.
8:15 on Sunday. We both like Cincinnati, which of course makes absolute perfect sense. The one Monday night game.
All right.
And Tampa. I am willing to bet that this Cowboys team finds an extra gear, is motivated after that disgusting performance at Washington last week where they put up 6 points. Tampa's defense is good. I just think Dallas is going to be able to run the ball well. CeeDee Lamb has a big enough game. And they find a way. This Cowboys team is too talented to bow out in the first round and against a Bucs team that has had a better looking season than it truly was. Even though they were 8-9, and you'd say, how's that a good season? Brady led these seemingly miraculous comebacks that at some point is going to end. And yes, Jason Brighton, I knew he was 7-0 against the Cowboys in his career. It has to end. It ends on Monday.
You know how I feel about the Cowboys. I've got 2 words for you. It's not Tom Brady. It's home dog. You've gone against what you have preached all season long. Yeah. Home dog and Tom Brady. So I got 4 words.
Right. I mean, shame on anybody for making Tom Brady an underdog at home, but this is where it stands. I have bet against Tom Brady or picked against Tom Brady so many times in my life, and I've been wrong every single time, and I have a feeling it.
So once again, it all comes down to the final game of the week for us, the only time we're different, same as last week.
Right, because here's a quick look at what we're doing. Niners, Jags, Bills, Giants, Bengals, and then split on that Monday nighter between the Cowboys and the Bucs. Follow the pack.
A long weekend on News Channel 13.
Next
late game
year.
Saturday, late game Sunday.
On Onorato Company.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face, sharing laughs, at the campground, getting wet, relaxing together, the love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV. Bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
And now back to Onorato Company. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
Welcome back to Onorato Company. We are doing our weekly FireWolves segment here. And this is a guy, we just said off camera, first 2-time appearance
of all the teams. And who would have thought it's goalie Justin Geddie? But what better time to have him on after his second career start, Justin? How are you, man?
Feeling good, guys. Glad I could be the first second-time person, so I appreciate that.
Hey, how do you feel about your performance in net the other night? Obviously, it's only your second career start. You made 61 saves, which is kind of an outrageous number. And I know indoor, Chris saw that number. He was like, that can't be possible. I'm like, well, it is in indoor lacrosse. That's kind of how it works. But how do you feel overall about how you did there?
Yeah, I felt like I played pretty well. There's definitely some spots that I need to work on. But again, it was my second start in the league. So felt like I played pretty well. And I'm excited to build on it this week when we go to Halifax. So,
is there anything intimidating about starting a game at this point for you in your playing career? I mean, we talk about, starts in indoor lacrosse, but obviously you've been playing lacrosse for a while. Is there anything that is nervous or nerve-wracking before a game like last week's?
Definitely, yeah. A little bit nerve-wracking getting to face some guys you grew up watching, like Randy Stotts and Cody Jameson. Those nerves kind of like settled in after the first quarter. And then I was just able to play freely the way I normally play. So, definitely always get the nerves. But if I don't get nerves, then I'll start worrying because then I won't be caring as much as I do now. So,
I was going to say my interview before the game, I just talked to him on the sideline and said, how you feeling? Are you nervous? And your exact words, I think, were nerves are a good thing. If you're not nervous, you don't love the sport enough. Like there's something that's not right. You know what I mean? So you didn't play nervous though. And I talked to you after the game as well. And I said, it felt like not that you gave up a lot of goals in the first half at all, but the second half, it felt like you kind of settled in and got really comfortable and were seeing the ball really well. Was there a difference from you from that first half to the second half that you kind of noticed as a goalie?
Yeah, definitely I made some adjustments at halftime, just seeing like based off what the shooters were giving me and stuff and what they were trying to target. So I just went into half, just took a deep breath and just made some adjustments, which turned out to be pretty good. I played well in the second half, so I was pretty happy with my play, but there's always room for improvement. So
we talked last week about the inconsistency of the schedule. You guys will finally play a few games now here in a row. What does that do for a team that lives out of the area for the most part, travels just to play the game, but to see each other now on a weekly basis, to get into the groove of playing games? How big of a deal is that?
Definitely. It's going to be nice to have a few back-to-back games during the week, just because it's really tough to come back, being away from the guys for about 3 weeks there. So it's always tough to come back and just jump right back into it. So I think everybody's pretty glad we have a good little stretch coming up where we get to play on the weeks. So I think we're looking forward to getting to see Halifax again this weekend and trying to meet in their home barn.
Yeah, does that help, Justin, seeing a team, 6 days apart? Obviously, you got to study a little less, but you know a little more about what they want to do. But each team is going to change kind of what they do probably.
Definitely, yeah. I think both teams are going to look back at that game and make adjustments compared to the first time we played. So I know personally I'm going to make some adjustments based on what I watched from the film. I watched the game over a couple times, and I think other guys will too, just seeing some minor mistakes we made. That Brett Manny said it pretty well after the game, that everyone has to look in the mirror and see who's staring back at themselves to see what they could have done better. So I think that's a good example of what everybody needs to do before we step into this game this weekend.
I'm looking back at myself
your
in
curl
this,
again.
And it's like, I
your
can't.
Curl.
You use the word barn. Now, I know that from hockey.
Yeah.
Is that a Canadian thing, though? Because, you'd never hear an NBA arena called a barn. Is that lacrosse Canadian? What is that?
I guess it's a little bit of both. Yeah, I grew up in Canada, so
right.
I played hockey and lacrosse growing up. So I guess it's kind of just the fluid language that we had growing up.
Yeah, no, I like it. Given your position on this team, obviously, Doug Jamieson is a guy that is so well known around the league. An opportunity like you had last week, and any opportunity you get to play, do you view it as an audition in some ways, whether it's for more playing time with the FireWolves or the off season? Does that ever creep into your mind? Or are you just worried about winning the game?
Definitely, yeah. I think more so it's just about winning the game and just trying to get that win for the team. But it definitely creeps in the odd time where like you get limited opportunities, especially behind Dougie, who I always think is probably one of the better goalies in the league. So anytime I get a chance to step the net, I kind of have to try and make that count. So yeah, I guess you could say it's kind of like an audition. But I'm always aware of that, and I'm always just trying to focus more so on trying to get a win.
And I wasn't the W, but Ash, 61 saves.
Yeah.
You know,
couldn't have done much more there. Yeah, and I think we talked to Coach after the game. There were some bad penalties late. There were a lot of things that were probably avoidable that caused things to kind of go the wrong way. So in terms of confidence, you're 1-2, but 2 of those games, those losses were very winnable. Does that make you feel better or worse in the locker room?
I think it's tough, right? I think the team as a whole know we could be easily 3-0 right now, and I think it's more so we can take the positives out of those games that we lost and try and implement them better into our next games. And yeah, hopefully we can bring it back to 500 this weekend in Halifax. So,
all right, man, go get them this weekend. We appreciate you coming back on the show, repeat guest, and good luck the rest of the way, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Justin Geddie from the Albany FireWolves, of course, part of our FireWolves segment each and every single week here on Onorato and Company. We're back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
And now back to Onorato and Company, brought to you by Alpen House.
Okay, Ash, the minute or so that we have left on this week's show, cannot ignore this big news that broke in Major League Baseball. And I mean, it's just the saga of the free agency of Carlos Correa has come full circle. Giants, almost said Niners, thinking San Francisco. Giants, Mets, back to the Twins, from a double-digit year deal and $300+ million to 6 years and $200 million back to Minnesota here.
Sorry, almost the same average annual value, just didn't get. And listen, who knows about the physical and all that stuff, but the Mets aren't quite as good as we thought they were, but they're still pretty darn good.
That's my biggest takeaway here is if you put Correa in that Mets lineup, you look at 1 through 6 and go, ooh, boy.
Yeah.
Now you take him out, and I say, who's playing third base? And now I'm not as intimidated. Again, I think it makes a sizable enough gap between the team you love in that division, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the New York Mets, who are probably second best in that division at this point. Our thanks to Mandy Patinkin. Again, coming to Proctors Theater Thursday, February 2nd, the star of Criminal Minds and Homeland, and of course, The Princess Bride. We know that, yes, absolutely. Chicago Hope, Evita. Go check them out at Proctors, everybody. Have a great weekend.